Good evening. Thank you for coming out to secure the bag from Pop Up to Buy the Block. We are going to go ahead and get started. So I am Kristen Freeman, Chief Solutionist of Project Forward. Project Forward is an economic and community development consultancy company. So we work with a lot of neighborhood-based entrepreneurs, as well as organizations like the ones we have on the panel, Chicago Community Loan Fund, to really help to build commercial corridors. So my focus is really on underserved communities on the south and the west sides, primarily of Chicago, but we are branching out nationally and internationally. So we are very excited to have you join our panel today. And so very quickly, the purpose of the Secure the Bag series, this is something Project Forward has done for a little while now, in providing information around access to capital for entrepreneurs to understand how to tap into resources. So the city of Chicago has a number of things, the federal government has a number of things, but unfortunately, many times Black entrepreneurs are not really privy on either these things existing, or if they know they exist, they don't know how to take advantage of them. And so Secure the Bag is really an opportunity to kind of connect those dots. I am certainly passionate about connecting Black businesses to the resources that they need, also which includes each other, because capital is not just financial, but it is also intellectual, human, and social. So understanding who else is in the room around you to provide resources that we can help build each other up with. So we will quickly do an introduction. So I will start on my left.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leah Holmes. I am the CEO and founder of Synergy Foods. We sell exotic, traditional, and different varieties of fruits and vegetables. And we also have a handcrafted line of Synergy caramel apples.
Hi guys, I'm Kai Bendelli. My company is Bendelli Properties LLC. We are a residential real estate development company, but I affectionately refer to myself as the slash lady just because of the multitude of different hats I wear under the Bendelli Properties umbrella. So I am a real estate investor slash developer slash landlord slash, you get the point. I do Airbnb. I'm not only an Airbnb superhost, but also an Airbnb ambassador, interior designer, consultant, and last but not least, I am a general contractor. I do my own projects as well as projects for other people.
Hey, good evening, everyone. David Feinberg with CCLF, Chicago Community Loan Fund. We're a community development financial institution. We are a lender. We're a real estate lender. We lend to 4 different kinds of asset classes: affordable housing, social enterprises, community facilities, and commercial retail. So that's what we do. And I was thinking a lot about the slash comment and how everyone up here is some sort of slash and the relationship piece. So I think what we do really is align purpose, mission, and equity with capital. And that's what distinguishes and differentiates us as a sector, as a lender. And we're interested in getting to know you when you have a concept to when you're developing 5, 10 properties and on to the next and greater capital need. And so we're in it for the long haul in terms of relationship and growth and business growth. And it's just incredibly exciting to connect with entrepreneurs and community revitalizers at all stages of their growth and development and ideation.
You have to do it.
I just did it.
Did you?
How you gonna facilitate my panel?
I'm Corey Gilkey. I'm an operator. I operate retail, restaurants, where operators right now and developers getting into the development movement. We're purchasing the property on 51st right up here. So our aim is to bring more retail jobs, energy, community development, art to a community that needs it. And that's what we're here talking about, is that I could have went anywhere in Chicago and opened up another store. I've been all over Chicago. I've had 5 locations in mostly the most prominent areas. And we moved to West Loop, which is one of the best areas right now. And we just came to that decision with my great consultant and friends of like-minded people that we deal with, is to buy on properties, go back in our communities and inspire and commute job opportunity and beautify neighborhoods. So that's what we're doing now.
So as Corey mentioned, I am his consultant. Project Forward consults with Saran Group, Focus Group, and Policy King. So Corey also is a / person. But the reality is, especially within underserved communities and underserved commercial corridors, we are the hyperlocal experts. And so because we're in communities that have been impoverished for a while, we may have to take on the / Like, we don't always have the luxury of wearing one solitude hat in order to have the impact that we would like to have. So it is best for you to get as comfortable meeting, as Corey said, like-minded people who can complement your slash. Like, you can't slash everything on your own. You will burn out real quick, or you will get sloppy at what you're doing. And so I'm going to ask you guys, because I consider you guys to be economic development practitioners and community wealth builders. I know that is nothing Corey would ever call himself, but that is the title that I give to most entrepreneurs who are working in these communities, because you are building community wealth, particularly by making the investment to come into the neighborhoods that you're coming into, but you are also supporting economic development of these corridors. So what helped you? What was your focus in starting your journey?
So the way Synergy Foods got started is really having a frustration of living in an area that was labeled a food desert. And so I'm from the South Side, born and raised in the Roseland community. At the time, I was living on Dorchester, and we were hosting just different food events, and we were always traveling outside. We, me and my friends, traveling outside of our community area, and it just kind of sparked the conversation around why do we have to travel outside the area, and started listening to how the city had a focus on targeting food deserts. So that was before new grocery stores opened up on King Drive, or over in the Inglewood area where they put a different larger chain grocery store. And so it was like, what is it that we can do? And started hosting produce markets out of our front yard, and started to get a lot of traction from people within the community area, as well as people went on social media outside the areas, because we will focus not only just on quality, but also providing a great customer experience. So that's even knowledge based. We would have chefs come out and prepare samples of the different fruits and vegetables, just so that people can have an experience if they've never had that experience. So that's what sparked us, and that's what got us started. But then we evolved over the years. And so not only do we do and still focus on the produce markets, but I have an education background. I come from working in the schools, and was looking at, where the gap is in keeping our youth engaged, and why is there so much violence or lack of opportunities for youth, like maybe after they graduate high school and they become that gap year and they don't necessarily go away to college. So I saw that there was an opportunity through Synergy Foods to create workforce education. So a lot of what we do is that we employ young folks. So we have individuals from the age of 16 to the age of 24. Our young folks who are 24, some work, some are teacher assistants, and then some folks are just trying to figure it out. But we saw that there was an opportunity to create job skills, right? So that our young people can compete and be able to bring funding back into their community, change their trajectory financially, provide experience, and be able to allow them, like I said, to compete as they go into the workforce. So our company started from focusing on the need of food deserts, but then there were other needs that we identified that will really help each community area grow that we were working within.
Quick question. Did you, or are you getting funding to support like your workforce development initiatives? Like, are you getting outside funding for that?
So some funding we've received from different friends, like Mel Mogul, who has a mentorship group, but then he also gets a lot of funding. So he helps to provide the financial assistance for a lot of our youth that come through. But other than that, no, it's just me. So I still work a 9 to 5 so that I can support Synergy Foods financially, right? So out of my pocket, yep. So no, I've never received any big funding.
Okay. So just to interject, there there are funds for workforce development initiatives. The county has funds, the city has funds. They do require paperwork, but there are governmental funding options outside of like the philanthropic side that will support those types of initiatives. It's just kind of making sure that you know that those things exist. Same question. Mm-hmm. How did you get started?
So I think ultimately what got me started was seeing a need. Community. I went through my multiple slash list and I left out my most important title and the title that I'm proudest of, and that is mom of a gentleman and scholar, my 12-year-old son, Amani, right? So who is, and I might be the only one on the panel who is not native Chicagoan, but let me assure each and every one of you all, my love for this city is unparalleled. And, having a young man and, having him active in school and going to different, athletic events and different things, I'm noticing just how dilapidated the neighborhoods that we call home are. Driving by litter-strewn lots and properties that are abandoned and just, in a lot of cases, these beautiful structures that just need TLC. And with my background, I'm a Wall Street veteran. I started investing in real estate 15 years ago when I was in New York, and just coming here with that experience and seeing that I could actually be hands-on in creating the type of change that I wanted to see here in Chicago.
Why did you get started? And when you consider yourself as both an economic development practitioner and a community wealth builder, what started you on that path?
What started me was that with my retail store, I've always saw the guys that were retailers, but for me, they were highly successful at just being a retailer. That's what they did, and that's all they did. They ran multiple stores, and that's what they did. And that, they bought homes, sent their kids to college, lived a good life doing that. And in 2015, I got in financial trouble. All right, just going through, that was probably my 13th year of business. We'll be celebrating 20 years in October, but we got in a little financial trouble and I had to come back and I had to organize, but ask for money and finance my business outside of that. So what I just thought about was that there was a need for, like I said, for me to come back into the areas and that I needed to do other things. I needed to be in the food business. If we're talking about, if we got to feed a community and clothe it, food, clothing, shelter. I wanted all three of those aspects to be part of my portfolio going forward. I never want to be in one particular bus or held accountable for just one thing that I did or known for that. So I challenged myself into learning different aspects of the business. So I interned with Chef Didier Duran at, what's Chef's restaurant again? Cafe Cyranos down in River North, because my store was right down the street. And he really showed me the business. So he had me gardening, painting, talking to his chef, going to Restaurant Depot, storage, warehouse. And I really figured that I could really do this. And I came up with a concept for fries from going to Belgium and Amsterdam. And I was like, no one kind of doing this in Chicago. And Bernard Lloyd, who owns this facility right here in Boxville, gave me an opportunity to come in his restaurant and just try it out and see how it did. And we became really good at it, and so that's why I did that. And now having this opportunity to purchase property on the South Side, I was like, we need to own. That's the shelter aspect of it. I need a piece of this land, a piece of this historical community that seems like no one has the guts to come back to develop. And I just felt that was my responsibility to do that. It was up to me, and maybe that will inspire other people to be my neighbor, to buy that lot, to come over here, because it's happened that way from everywhere else I went. Like when I went to West Loop, everybody came to West Loop. When I was in Bronzeville, everybody came to Bronzeville. So it's a way of just getting people to buy back, and that you'll have a partner like me that'll be there to support you also, that's your neighbor, to enhance our quality of life for our children's grandchildren. So, and me coming back here, working with Bernard Lloyd at Boxville, recreating this shipping container structure for smaller entrepreneurs to come and not be having the funds to afford a brick and mortar. So I've been through brick and mortars my whole life, 20 years, and I know how hard it is, you know, when you don't have everything together. You know, we honestly think, like me 25 years ago, I was like, all I need is $20,000. And now he's, you know what I'm saying? And these days you need $200,000. You know what I'm saying? So it was a way for them to grow, develop their profit and loss statements, do their marketing, build their clientele, and then they'd be ready to take on a landlord, you know, and have the funding, have opportunities with banking and consultants and friends. They have resources to get them to the next level. So that's why I did it.
So realistically, there is always a trajectory, right? So what Corey is talking about is kind of a continuum. So whether you start out in your home or you start in a space like Boxville, there is a pathway for you to get from one place to the other. And sometimes entrepreneurs look at the end, like you got the big vision. I mean, that's part of being an entrepreneur, right? Like you have these big visions, but the reality is there is often a breadcrumb way that you can get from point A to Z and not necessarily have to start out with the $200,000, but we can also be a little smarter on how do we amplify that 20,000 so it feels like 200,000. And that's where that importance of that network and those relationships come in. And so one thing I wanted to ask was, what does your team look like? Like who else is helping you to bring this to, especially with you still having a day job, because that's still, I know that's a different balance, right? So talk to us about who your team is.
So my village comprises of friends, family, and community members, people who are just like solidly interested in seeing us grow and become successful. So when I first started out, my original team, and I call my team my village because they've honestly, truly been holding us down for a long time. And it's not a financial hold down, but just the support of showing up to our events, just that simple support of sharing information on social media or making catering order purchases, right? Or sharing, right? That keeps us going. So like I said, friends, these are people who do graphic design. They have graphic design background. I don't have that. They stepped in. People who can help me with marketing strategies, who have that background. Those are friends and family. I've now recently started working with people who are grant writers. These are people who've seen us putting in work over time. And they say, I see that you're committed to your mission. I see that you are going to stay 10 toes down, right? Like, and they're interested in seeing us succeed. So my team is my village of friends, family, and community folks.
Kai, same question.
Well, you know what? My team is ever evolving. As I grow, so too does my team. Started off very small, just a handful of contractors that I had faith in, whose work that I'd seen and that I'd known. I think having a dynamic support team of friends and family is integral. You know what I mean? I mean, even not necessarily do friends and family necessarily provide the hands-on type of assistance, but just, just walking into the room today, having people, I admire what you do, I see what you're doing. You know, you brought it up, but capital access is very difficult for entrepreneurs. And I remember, having a rock solid resume, having a portfolio of properties, having an excellent credit score, and still finding myself facing challenges to take advantage of an opportunity that Joe Blow, who's situated down in Florida, would not even have to, to come up with money to be able to act on an opportunity. So the long and the short of it is I deal with a pool of small contractors. I have cleaning crews for my Airbnbs. I have independent mechanical contractors that I work with on a regular basis, and pretty much just make it work the way that I can. Administratively, I'm covering a lot of that, but I also use a virtual assistant as well. So I'm a very small team.
How many, and I didn't ask, how many people do you employ?
We have 5.
5?
5.
5.
Ooh. It's 7 people downstairs at the restaurant. It's really kind of 7 at the store because my photographer, videographer is right there. He's, what's that, W-2? Yeah, I'm going to Eddie. He has a pants on. He's an independent contractor. Elamon's independent. That's my head creative director, designer right there. Our GC right there on 51st Street. James Webb is back there. Yeah. You're on payroll. All right.
Don't put
James Silvestro, our architect. We have so many people. Kelly Knight, our attorney. Van Isom Associates was our attorney for 22 years.
your accountant.
My accountant, my bad. She both damn near, but you know. So who am I leaving out? My God, I don't even want to leave anybody out. But we have a lot of people. But you know, I have 3 to 4 different companies, so they're all cool with each other. We're all family with each other. We all take care of each other. But I would say, 15, 16 people.
16 people.
Yeah.
So that's the impact of being a community wealth builder and an economic development practitioner. Like, you are not just touching the people who you employ, but you're touching the people who engage with you, right? You're touching the people who are watching what you're doing. Because like when Corey, I never met Corey when he was in Bronzeville, but I was working in Bronzeville. I started to really do the corridor work along Cottage Grove. And I remember Bernita telling me, she would tell me that you were complaining about like the chicken bones that would be outside because
Sound like Corey.
he like, my high-end customers can't walk through this stuff. And so from my standpoint, when I look at commercial corridor development, there's the business, but then there's also the aesthetic. There's like, how does it feel when you're walking down the street? And part of that has to do with how many businesses are occupying the corridor. So if you're in a vacant corridor, you're going to have the issues like the chicken bones, or if you have a mismatch in the type of care, because some of Corey's neighbors didn't care. It's almost like the additional burden of the earlier entrepreneurs who are coming into these spaces, who unfortunately have to kind of double down and help to change behavior. Because when you've had vacancies for so long, there's a certain mindset that comes along with that. And I don't know if you're thoughtful about it. Like, what do you do to help counter that mindset? Like, what do you do, if anything, either with your staff or even how you run your business or how you engage with community to help kind of counter the mindset of being in a disinvested commercial corridor?
Yeah, so my store is downstairs. I'm in one of the shipping containers at Boxville. And we deal with that. We're right here on 51st underneath the Green Line. One of the biggest ways, and props to Boxville, is creating programming that's inclusive for everyone. So they don't create program that's just for our social media followers. They create programming that's for everyone to be able to participate. And even if there may be a focus for, to attract new customers, there are certain programming that happens different days where there may be like giveaways for stuff. It may be food drives. It may be a coat drive happening. So just making sure that everyone is included. When we're combating some of our aunts and uncles, let's not call them aunties. I call them aunt. That's the respect level, right? That's not pushing the way they love that. So that's a word of endearment to call someone auntie or uncle. So just having that day-to-day respect when you see an individual. Sometimes you want to get where you may be annoyed because they may be hackling you. You don't have to express that back, right? It's really all the way that you deal with how you respond to people. And just say, hey, brother, this is just not the time. Come on, brother, keep it going. Sis, this is not the time. TT, but you don't have to get aggressive, right, in your manner. So I think that's one of the biggest, is just making sure that people feel comfortable and included. There are times where I've heard a lot of people say, we're gentrifiers sometimes, right? Right? Or like on a serious deal, when I have these conversations with my friends, we are equivalent to a certain level of a gentrifier, especially in the eyes of community members who've lived here. So it's like, who are you? You think you better than me, right? So now you just gonna come into my neighborhood. I've been here for X amount of years. These are my streets. These are words that some of our neighbors say to us, right, on a day-to-day basis, because they don't understand that we are equally here, one, to improve the community, because we all have roots. My grandparents come from this community. And so it's just one of those things of just making sure that you give equal respect.
Yeah, and I would like to piggyback off of what Leah was saying. Although my experience is a little different because I'm in and out of different communities. I don't necessarily have one place that I'm affixed to. But I think ultimately engaging with the community, making sure that people feel seen and heard, because, you know, what you were saying, a lot of it, you know, sometimes boils down to someone viewing you as elitist. How you coming here and doing X, Y, Z, and my aunt was trying to get this house and she didn't get it. How you end up getting it? You know what I mean? That type of thing. So, you know, just seeing the human in people, connecting with them on a very real level, and then also being the change that you want to see. You know, when I have my contractors in and out, making sure that they clean up behind themselves, that they carry themselves in a respectful way, and sometimes even going that extra step. You know what I mean? I'm big about wanting to be on a clean block. You know what I mean? Like, I can be a dilapidated, boarded up house, but I want the neighborhood to have a certain type of integrity, even if I have to be part of rolling up my sleeves and making it be that way. So just having that vested interest and knowing that ultimately we all want the same things, and just engaging with people on a real human side, you know, taking the Kai, the business owner hat off, and I'm a citizen just like you are. And I want our kids to be able to walk down the street. Right. That's simple.
So that common interest,
Right,
like just as a human, like everybody has a basic set of needs.
Yes.
Corey?
Well, I don't know if people follow me on social media, but everyone sees me clean up every day over here. And I think that's responsibility if you come into a community and, you know, you have to take pride in that ownership of cleaning up, even if it's not your stuff. And when they see that, I've had the community see that sometime and be like, man, why you throw that down there, Corey? He gonna man, go pick that up, man. Corey right here, man. You gonna do that right in front of him. So it's been working. You know what I'm saying? It's every day though. It's like, so we look at something, whatever you see, you don't know who watching, just pick it up and throw it away. Even if you live here or if you do business with, that's the responsibility aspect of it. And, you know, they see that, and then you know, in terms of endearment, they grow fond of you, but it takes time and it takes work. You know what I'm saying? Sacrifice and being able to deal and have that conversation with your community neighbor. We all have to coexist. So if we middle class, poor, or rich or successful, and that's what society was built upon, coexistence of us all. So that's the only thing I can say.
So, one thing when you said, you know, we're all gentrifiers, like I prefer revitalize. Like, I'm a revitalizer. I mean, there's always going to be a certain amount of displacement, which is where gentrification really is, like, who is being displaced, how many people are being displaced. But can you try to slow down that displacement with the opportunities, like you said, a lot more of the programming that's more inclusive? I want to talk about the access to capital piece, because you touched on it and you talked about some of your difficulty. Looking back, what would you have done differently as far as like securing capital for your very first deal?
So I think looking back, I probably would have found a way, because I got my hand on this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I had this mental, you know, I want 10 properties, and I was very, I guess credit averse is the best way to describe it. I felt like I don't want to be in debt. I hear about people losing houses and going into foreclosure. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen because I'm buying everything cash. Here, take that, you know, and it's just not sustainable. It's just not sustainable. And I think because back then I definitely wasn't a big picture visionary in the way of you got to have pretty deep pockets to be able to continue purchasing in cash. And so thinking back, the $50,000 that I'd saved, to purchase my first property, I probably would have broken that out into increments of 10 grand and partnered with someone, a bank, a lending institution, to make that go further. Because each time I purchased a property, once I ran out of actual fiscal funds, you know, it was a whole uphill battle to try and get a property, just the checks and balances. So that's definitely what I would have done differently. Is I would have definitely focused more so on the big picture and, you know, understanding that liquidity is really important. You know, if you spend up all of your cash, it's a lot harder for you to transact business. Someone is more willing to lend money to someone who has $10,000 to put on this property than if I'm just coming to them and I need the whole entire kit and caboodle. But even having said that, capital access in general, even if you do check all of those boxes and have everything in place the way that it's supposed to be, I think there is unlearning that needs to happen. We talked about within our communities, but there's some unlearning that needs to happen on the lending institution side as well, because a lot of lending institutions feel like, it's too risky for me to, give you this money to buy this property in Inglewood. I mean, and I don't know how many people in here have purchased homes and who have been up against redlining. It's so real in these neighborhoods. And I think that there's some unlearning that needs to happen then too. We have people who are underwriting deals who don't want to cut a check because they're not familiar with this neighborhood, and they read some bad press in the Chicago Times about what's going on in the South suburbs. So we really, in addition to being on top of things as far as financially and having that picture together, we also have to be very strategic and making sure that we're dealing with community banks and people who actually have a vested interest in growing the communities. And I've been fortunate in that I have been able, just through trials and tribulations and experience, partnering with private lenders who I don't necessarily have to go through the same, jumping through the same hurdles in order to get money, because I deal with people who know my work, who trust my bottom line, who sees the rate at which I turn these homes around. So it's a lot easier for me now to get money, but it took a minute for me to get there. Yeah.
Corey has been in business almost 20 years, as he said. October will be 20 years for Leaders. Even with that, though, we still have to do a lot on preparing his financials for submission to lenders. So meaning people want to see a financial model, not just how you've made money, but how you plan to make money. How does your business make money? So a lot of organizations will not have a business plan, even if they're like, Corey has a lot of numbers in his head. So I'll be like, so Corey, what are the numbers for this? And he will spit this stuff out. And I'm like, well, where is it written? I can't give the system in his phone to the lender. I cannot give Wendell Corey's system in the phone. So part of it is the due diligence on the end of the business owner. Like, y'all have expertise, we have expertise, but it's gotta be in a format that then translates to who you're trying to get your money from. So some of those private lenders may not be as stringent because they're looking at your history. They're like, oh yeah, she's done this before.
But the best time to ask for money is when you don't need it. So the best time to connect with us is when you have the seed of an idea and the need for capital is far from your consideration or far from your reality. Build a relationship with us, because that's what we're here for. When you heard Kristen say earlier, which is incredibly true, we don't have the marketing budget to flood you with all the cool gadgets and toys and interfaces that the conventional banks do, but we have time and we want to build relationships. So connect with us when you have the start of an idea, and when you start to develop that idea about what you want to build or develop or where you want to place your business or nonprofit. That's also a time when you want to specifically connect with us about a capital ask. I think I'm keeping people between now and their happy hour. So